Hey, are you dreaming about the day that you can finally retire? Well, guess what? We're going to wake you up, folks, because today is the day. We're going to count you down 365 days to retirement. Step-by-step guide to get to financial freedom. Welcome, everyone. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. My name's Joe Anderson. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm with, of course, the big man right over there, Big Al Clopine. Big Al and I work for a company called Pure Financial Advisors. Pure Financial Advisors. And what we have in store for you today is something extremely special, because when it comes to the beginning of the year or the end of the year, we think about our finances and we want to give you a roadmap to financial freedom. But here's the problem. Let's take a look at the statistics right now. Where are we at with retirement savings? It's not looking pretty, folks. 33% of people that are over 55 years of age have under $10,000 saved. $10,000 saved. A third of people have less than 10. And then if I add this 17%, oh, now we're at 10 to 100,000. So what does this mean here? 50% of people 55 or older have less than $100,000 saved for retirement. This is not going to get us to our dreams, folks. So what we want to do is get you motivated, get you excited, to get you countdowning to your retirement. That's today's Financial Focus. Here, let me break things down in a real simple fashion. How much do you need to create a certain level of income? If you want to spend $10,000 a year, let's say for the next 25 to 30 years, what you would need in liquid assets is about $250,000. What we call this is the 4% rule. You don't want to take out any more than 4% out of your assets on any given year. So 4% of $250,000 is 10 grand. If you want to spend $80,000, or if you need an additional $80,000 on top of your Social Security and pensions, well, you need $2 million. This is a huge number. How do we get there? Well, we need someone a lot smarter than me to help you climb this ladder. So let's not wait any longer to bring in the big man, Big Al Clopine.
365-day countdown to retirement. Are you ready? So we're going to go over the things that you need to consider over the next year to make sure you're ready to retire. So I got a little timeline here. Let's start with days 1 through 5, or maybe you can do this in a day. I don't know. But then here's where you figure out, are you ready? Are you financially ready? Right? So we'll tell you how to think about that. So that's number one. If you determine that you're ready, okay, so then rest of the month, let's come up with an action plan, because there's some things that you're going to need to do and consider before you actually retire. After that, let's go ahead and implement the plan so you actually can retire in 365 days. And there's probably going to be course corrections along the way. And Joe, this to me is one of our most exciting shows, because this is all about financial freedom, retiring.
Right. And I think the first steps of all of this is, all right, well, what am I spending? Right? And there's different rules of thumb that people take a look at. And if you take a look at, let's say, Fortune magazine, what are they saying? Well, you're going to spend up to 60 to 80% of your pre-tax income. Or you could go all the way to Fidelity, and they're saying, well, you need 10 times your final pay. Or maybe it's somewhere in between. And what Al and I found is that it's all over the map. It is all over the map.
It is, Joe, because, and really there's, I think, a better way to think about it. And that's looking at your own exact situation instead of these rules of thumb. So what that means is start with your own spending. And a lot of people may not even know what they're spending. So at least maybe start with your paycheck. Take a look at your net pay and multiply that times the number of payments, paychecks you get per year. And if you're spending about what you're making, that's a pretty good indication of what you're actually spending. Because a lot of folks, when we talk to them, they're spending $80,000 or $100,000, and they think they're spending $30,000 or $40,000. So start there. But Joe, it gets a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah, and another thing too is that when you're retired, just realize that it's Saturday every day. Right? You don't get a day off. And what do we usually do on Saturdays? Well, we find time to spend money because we're not working. And so some of these rules of thumb that you're going to spend significantly less money in retirement, well, those are just rules of thumb. A lot of individuals actually spend quite a bit more, especially in the first few years of retirement, because guess what? You have a little bit more free time. You're doing different things. You want to travel, especially in your first few years of retirement while you're still young. So you have to look at some of these as a grain of salt, but I think, again, it's a really good starting point to determine, all right, well, am I even close to this? Because a lot of people's savings is nowhere near 60%. It's going to be 6% of what you're currently spending now because there's not enough money saved.
Yeah, Joe, and then the other thing too is as you said, a lot of people want to spend more in retirement, and these rules of thumb of spending 60 to 80%, maybe that works for you, maybe it doesn't. In our experience, those that have saved want to spend a little bit more in retirement. And so I think how you look at that is break your expenses down maybe into housing, necessities, and luxuries.
Yeah, great point, Al. And here we have a quick example is that, all right, well, let's say housing. So that could be your mortgage, taxes, utilities. Maybe you're currently spending $30,000 a year on that. Then you look at the necessities. Well, we have to eat, we have to travel. We still need to get around. We have insurance payments and things of that nature. Maybe you're spending $30,000 there. And then we'll call this last luxuries. So that could be your travel, spoiling the grandkids, doing different things that you probably wouldn't do in your day-to-day lives. And so maybe the goal is to spend $30,000, or maybe you're currently spending $30,000 there. But now that's your current spending. If you look at retirement, well, that could completely change. Because, hey, my mortgage payment might be still $30,000, or this could actually be a lot less because you paid off your mortgage. And then you look at this number here with your insurances. Well, maybe you retired early, so this number could go up or it could go down depending on your specific situation. But in this example, we're assuming the housing stayed the same, and maybe, right, I'm not traveling to work. I don't have to buy suits anymore, right? I can just hang out in my pajamas, whatever your fancy is. But I want to travel a lot more. I want to play more golf. I want to do different things. Well, maybe this luxury goes up. So if my goal is to spend, let's say, $100,000 in retirement, that's your starting point. That's kind of where you have to start talking to your spouse, looking at things. What does this picture going to look like for me in retirement?
Yeah, Joe, and then the second part, of course, is your income. So we look at fixed income, and we define fixed income, things that you know are coming in, like Social Security. Maybe you've got a pension, maybe you don't. Maybe you got a rental property, maybe you don't. But you add up these fixed income items together, and then ultimately you're going to compare it to your spending to see what kind of shortfall you have.
Yeah, so if we go back to the example, it's like, all right, well, here, I want to spend this $100,000, and then I'm going to do my financial planning. I'm going to start getting ready for this. And I'm going to say, all right, well, my Social Security, my spouse and I, we have about $30,000. Maybe we have a pension, $20,000. Maybe we have some rental income. Maybe I'm going to work part-time or some miscellaneous income of another 10. So I know I can count on about $60,000. But wait, we need 100. So we have to do some math here. I want to spend 100. 60,000 I know is coming in. So here's my shortfall. Is this $40,000? So this is where we use this 4% rule. So what's 4%? So I don't want to pull out any more than 4% out of my nest egg to get to this 40 grand. Well, here's what I need. I need $1 million to be able to accomplish this. If I don't have that $1 million, guess what? I'm going to have to make some changes here. My lifestyle is going to change a little bit. See this luxuries? Zero. Right? Selling the home, zero. You got to start moving the numbers around, start moving your levers. At least when you start doing this exercise, you're going to have more confidence once you approach retirement versus just saying, you know what, I hate my job, I'm out of here. Do a little bit of planning. It's going to pay off in spades. We got to take a short break. We have a retirement calculator today as our special offer. If you go to yourmoneyyourwealth.com, click on the special offer. It has a retirement calculator. You can start calculating your numbers right there in your pajamas, sitting in bed, playing around with the computer. We got to take a break. We're just getting started. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. Hey, welcome back to the show, folks. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. Joe Anderson, Alan Clopine. We're counting you down to retirement. We got about 365 days to get you retired. Before we spend another minute, let's see how you did on the true-false question.
When determining how much I can safely spend from my portfolio in retirement, if I spend less than 2% of my investments per year, I will guarantee that I will not run out of money. No, there's no guarantee. That's false, by the way, because you could potentially have your investments in nothing more than a money market paying virtually nothing. And there's no guarantee that you're going to, with a 2% distribution rate, you're going to be okay in retirement. We tell you 4% is a good rule of thumb, but there's a lot of factors. Some of you maybe it can be a higher distribution rate, some may be a lower, depending upon your circumstances.
Yeah, without question. You want to make sure that you have the right investment strategy for any of this to make sense. You know, if you have one individual stock, right, that one individual stock could do 20%, but then the next year it could go to zero and you're only pulling 2% out of it. So this 4% rule that we talk about is just a guideline, right? I think new academics come out and they probably are saying closer to 3% just because of interest rates are low and, valuations of stocks. So 4% is just trying to help you to see, hey, am I close to that overall goal? So don't take that as money in the bank or guarantees by any stretch of the imagination, because life always throws us curveballs. Al, let's kind of go into now breaking this thing down to help people retire in the next, 365 days?
Yes, Joe, and let's start with, we know that from recent surveys that if those of you that have a written plan, you're much more likely to feel very prepared in retirement. In fact, Joe, I think it's about 50% that have a written plan feel good about it.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? 50%, at least they have the confidence. Confidence means everything when you're dealing with your money, because most of us are so unconfident, because as the market gets a little bit jittery, what do? We want to take action, and that's probably, inaction is probably the right steps. So if I have a written plan, it shows right here at least half, but 17% that don't have any type of plan at all feel the confidence, and that's probably overconfidence, right? That's just like, hey, I'm good at whatever, and then this is probably an outlier. Because if you take a plane, right, and we're in San Diego, if we go to New York, and if that plane veers off by 1 or 2%, guess what? I'm in, Florida. Well, I'm not making it to New York. So you want to make sure that you have that roadmap.
So part of what goes into a plan, Joe, is investing. And I think when you think about investing, there's a few basics that you want to make sure that you cover, like rate of return. What rate of return do you need? And I think a lot of folks, they look at their investments first and hope that it's enough. We're going to encourage you to do just the opposite. Do a little math to figure out what rate of return you need to achieve your goals, and then to design a safe portfolio to achieve that rate of return.
I mean, you're right on. It's like, all right, well, here, I like this stock or I like this mutual fund, and then they back into their overall retirement plan and hope that it's going to work. Versus looking at, well, what target rate of return do I need to generate? What is that rate of return? And then you want to build a portfolio around that return, and you want to take the least amount of risk possible to achieve that goal, right? It's going to give you the highest probability of success of your goal. So whatever your goals are, is it retirement? Is it passing wealth? Is it putting kids through school or whatever? And then finally, you want to make sure that you're managing the portfolio appropriately, because things get volatile. You want to rebalance. You want to buy, right, low. We want to sell high. We want to tax manage the portfolio. So there's a lot of other things that you want to make sure that you do. And speaking of other things, to make sure that you can retire in the next 365 days, we brought in probably the best guest we've ever had on this show. I'm so excited to bring on Peter the Man Keller. He's a certified financial planner. He's a senior financial advisor, 20 plus experience in the business. Al's gonna break things down with Pete to look at the financial things, what you can control, right? And then we're also gonna look at the non-financial things that you wanna make sure that you look at, because controlling the things you can control is key. We're looking at risks, costs, and taxes. But enough of me, let's bring on Alan and Big Peter Keller.
Well, Pete, thanks so much for joining us. And let's jump right into, we're talking about action plans, retirement action plans. What are some of the key elements that should go into a plan?
Great question, Al. There's a lot that you need to consider when you're going into retirement. But if I was to really break it down into 3 components, just from a broad spectrum, I would say first, you've got financial considerations. You want to really focus in on what is the desired spending that you have in retirement, and then what's going to be the income to maintain that lifestyle that you desire in retirement. Then the second one is going to be timing. When are you going to retire? And there's a lot of different components. Is that going to be at the beginning of the year? Is it going to be at the end of the year? There's different ramifications of that. And then finally, it's going to be the non-financial considerations. You've got 7 Saturdays a week to fill your time. So what are you going to do in retirement?
So let's start with financial considerations. So you've done your math, and either you're on track, you can retire in a year, or maybe you're not on track. And a lot of folks, when they look at their spending, they're not quite there. So what are some things that they ought to consider?
Yeah. So you really want to hone in on spending, because spending is really going to drive everything. You want to be able to maintain that same standard of living throughout retirement, or you might want to enhance it some more. As we talked about earlier from Joe, he said, hey, maybe in retirement, you want to increase your standard of living. All right, well, the best approach to doing that is to put pencil to paper and start mapping it out and really figuring out what it takes to retire. And then you're going to backfill and see, all right, well, how much of a nest egg do I need in order to maintain that same standard of living? And at the end of the day, if you're coming up short, then there's some other considerations that you might want to make. So considerations, reducing your standard of living, selling a home.
So what if I don't want to do that? I want to live my lifestyle.
Okay.
What should I do?
All right, well, consider working longer. That's another option. Delaying Social Security is another option. Of course, you've got reducing spending or working part-time in retirement.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, that's what they're going to choose probably, right? Because they may want to work part-time anyway just for something to do, but it also adds a little extra income. So let's talk about timing issues, because it's not just about when you decide to quit.
Yeah, no, timing is really, really important to consider, because when retiring at the end of the year, you got to look at all the comp that could come into play and the tax ramifications. So if you have an annual year's worth of salary and you retire at the end of the year and you have equity comp, such as stock options, restricted stock units, those are going to vest, that could throw your income higher. You might want to consider pushing that off until the next year. And then there's also other issues with retiring at the beginning of the month or at the end of the month. If you retire at the beginning of the month, then you have another month's worth of benefits, health benefits through your employer. So timing is really critical. If you carry into the next year by a month or two, now you have time to fund 401ks or Roth contributions as well.
So Pete, there's also non-financial considerations on how you're going to spend your time, and that's just as important as everything else.
Yeah, with retirement, you now have 7 Saturdays a week to fill your time. So what are you going to do? A lot of people consider going out volunteering, pursuing another business interest of their own that they're passionate about. So retirement, you take a step back and think about what you're going to be doing through your days in your golden years.
Well, Pete, thank you so much for joining us. That's really good information. We've got a lot more to come in our countdown to retirement. You want to stay tuned because there's some pretty good stuff coming up. In the meantime, take a look at our quick retirement calculator on yourmoneyyourwealth.com.
Hey, welcome back to the show. The show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. Joe Anderson, Alan Clopine. We're counting you down to retirement. But before we get to the countdown, let's see how you did on the true-false question.
Short-term capital losses can be deducted against long-term capital gains and vice versa. That's a true statement. In fact, a lot of people miss this one. Here's how it really works. Is short-term losses net against short-term gains first, long-term losses net against long-term gains first, and then if there's any extra losses on one or the other, they net against the other. So the answer is true.
That is one smart man right there.
That's a succinct answer, right? You have nothing to add to that.
You are an expert in this field, Alan.
In taxes.
In taxes, you are phenomenal. So that just gives us into a nice little segue to flip the show to you, because you have questions for some experts. So let's go to Ask the Experts.
Hi, Joe and Al. I was wondering, when a husband and wife both retires, does it make sense to continue paying for life insurance?
It depends.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I know, right?
Should I still have life insurance? I'm retired. I don't know. Do you have a mortgage? What's your fixed income? Do you have a special needs child? Do you have an estate issue? So there's all sorts of things. But I guess in general terms, the likelihood that someone needs life insurance in retirement, I would say it's slim. It's a little, most people buy insurance to protect their income.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's protecting your income. And if you both retire, that means you have enough income to cover it.
But I guess with a blanket statement, I would say in most cases, if you're retired, for you to continue to pay life insurance premiums, likelihood is probably no. Let's go to the email bag, Alan.
I like the idea of tax-free income in a Roth IRA. Is there a way to contribute more than $5,500 into a Roth IRA each year? This is from Paul in Mission Valley. There are additional ways to get money into a Roth, maybe not a contribution, but you can certainly, if you have a 401k that has a Roth option, you can put $18,500 into that Roth IRA. $19,000 in 2019. So that's one way to do it. Another way is you can always convert. You can take money out of your IRA or your 401k and convert it to a Roth IRA. You'll pay taxes on the conversion, but you can do that. So there's other ways, Joe, to get money to the Roth.
Right. Think about it like this. So if you're making a Roth IRA contribution of $5,500, that's already an after-tax contribution. You pay the tax on the dollars. Now you're dropping it into the Roth IRA. That $5,500 is going to grow tax-free for the rest of your life. Now, another way to do that is a conversion, as Al just said. So I'm taking money from my existing retirement account. Let's say it's $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. I'm going to take those dollars out, convert it now into a Roth. I'm going to pay tax on whatever that I convert, but just know now, whatever you convert into that Roth IRA is forever growing tax-free for you. So yes, there's multiple ways to jam a lot of money into a Roth IRA. You have to take a look at what tax bracket that you're in, how much money that you have in a retirement account, what's your overall retirement plan, what fixed income sources that you have, what's your overall legacy goals. So there's a lot more things to consider. I like where your head's at because I like 0% tax rates because it doesn't really get much better than that. Now, this is the time of the show where we got a ton of things that we're going to really cram into your brain. It is called Countdown to Retirement, Alan. Count it down.
Okay, here we go. So here's the first one. Don't guess. Take some time, figure out what you need. How much do you need in assets to be able to retire, to translate in the kind of income, the kind of lifestyle that you want?
Most people plan more for their vacation than they do their overall retirement. I guarantee you've already looked at your hotel, your travel, the airline. You already have that all mapped out. Most people guess as they approach retirement. Yeah, I think we'll be okay. Do not guess on your overall retirement.
Make sure you've got an emergency fund. Boy, is this an important one. And boy, a lot of people out there don't really have an emergency fund. If your car breaks down or you get sick or something, you need to have some funds to be able to cover yourself in an emergency. This is a big one a lot of people miss.
Yeah, maybe 3 to 6 months income, I think would be appropriate emergency fund, something like that. And it depends on your debts, right? So you want to make sure that you pay off all non-mortgage debt. If you have a lot of credit card debt, you don't have an emergency fund, people keep going back to the credit cards and that kind of blows them up there.
Yeah, and actually pay off your mortgage if you can. I mean, although we see mistakes here, we see people paying off their mortgage and they got no money. So don't necessarily do that.
Right. Yeah. Another point to that is that most people want to be completely debt-free when they retire. And so they're taking all their liquid assets and they're throwing everything at the mortgage. And then they retire. Guess what? There's no more mortgage, but then they have no cash. And so they have to sell the home or they have to do a reverse mortgage or a cash out refinance. So you have to have balance in your overall strategy.
Figure out when you want to take Social Security. You can take it as young as 62 and as late as 70. The longer you wait, the better the benefit. This is a big one. This is a guaranteed source of income from our government. So make sure you get this one right.
Right. And then to dovetail with the Social Security benefits, that rolls right into Medicare. Right. So once you enroll for Social Security at full retirement age, now you're automatically enrolled for Medicare. But do you want a Medigap policy? Is that Medicare premium? What's it going to look like? What's your income? So there's a lot of planning around Medicare as well.
Pension too, Joe. Now, not everyone has a pension, but if you do have a pension, get it right. There's usually a lot of choices: survivor benefit, non-survivor benefit. When you actually retire, these will affect your income for life.
Yeah, the pension benefits are huge. And we talked about life insurance earlier. Well, if I pick just a single life on me, and then if I were to pass, just know that the spouse would get nothing. So maybe it makes sense to keep that life insurance, or you want to make sure that you do the planning to say, if I do pass, what does the surviving spouse get? And then you have to look at the portfolio, right?
You may need to reallocate based upon your own circumstance. We'll go a little quickly. Make sure you don't forget income taxes, because if you have all your money in a retirement account, you're going to be paying a lot of high income taxes. Make sure your estate documents are in order. You got a will, you got a trust. Make sure that's all buttoned down before you retire. And then finally, I would say, have a reason to get out of bed. right, Joe? I mean, you...
Alan, you are my reason that I get out of bed each and every morning.
That's the sweetest thing you've ever said to me.
We have flowers here today.
Is that for me?
I bought those for you just because last week
and yellow is friendship. So,
and there's love involved with friendship. So, hey, that's it for us. I want to thank Peter Keller for doing one hell of a job today. Thank you, Peter Keller, Senior Financial Planner for Pure Financial Advisors, at least for the next week until we get back to the office. For Big Al Clopine, I'm Joe Anderson. Don't forget to click on Your Money or Wealth. We got Big Al's calculator, so if you want to calculate how and when you can retire, go to Your Money or Wealth for that special offer. And guess what? You just watched another phenomenal episode of Your Money or Wealth. Have a great day, everyone.